good morning. Hello. Welcome to our morning meeting. We're here with Lucy. Good morning, Lucy. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Lucy. Good morning. We're here with our little screech owl lady, Lucy, here. Hi. And when you guys come in, let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're from, and we'll give you guys a shout out. We love hearing where everyone is visiting and watching us from. It's really cool to see everyone across the country. We're here with Lucy, our Screech Owl ambassador. She is very, very sweet and very feisty. So we're gonna give her some treats. We're gonna see how she's doing this morning. Our screech owls are very small species of owls, so Lucy is not a baby. She is full grown. She's just a very small species of owl. So if this is like my hand, this is about how big she is. And they are pretty numerous in our area. We get them pretty frequently in the summertime, and then a little less frequently in the winter. They traditionally have migrated south to like the mid-Atlantic coast during the winter time, but more and more they're staying up here if they're able to kind of eke out a living along the seacoast. So we do see them in the winter sometimes now when we didn't used to, which is pretty interesting, pretty exciting. And of course, a result of, some warming temperatures. These guys are really great at hunting and eating insects. And obviously there aren't a ton of those around here in the winter, but there are more and more every year. So some of them are able to figure out how to survive here in the winter time. They also will eat small rodents as well. So if they're able to find enough insects and enough small rodents, they can make it through the winter pretty well. Good morning, Lewis. Hello. Let me know when you guys are here and I can give you all a shout out. I also love hearing where everyone is from. So we really enjoy seeing where everybody is visiting us from. You guys are probably observing Miss Lucy spinning her head around while I'm, orienting her and trying to get her to look at you guys and not at me or at the back door or anything like that. So owls are able to spin their heads around 270 degrees. So not quite a full circle. Everyone always says a full circle. Good morning, Tiffany. Hello. But it is 270 degrees. So it's all the way backwards as Lucy is kind of doing right now. And then they can come back to the front and then go all the way backwards around the other way. So it's really impressive, very cool. They have extra bones in their neck and super flexible joints in their neck that allow them to do that. Are you looking at yourself? Yeah. So Lucy came to us when she was a small, small little owlet. She was probably about maybe 6 weeks old when we got her. She was originally found in a tree in someone's backyard in her nest with her siblings. Her nest was in a dead snag, a tree that had died, and then had become a host to insects, and those insects attract woodpeckers, and those woodpeckers will peck beautiful little owl houses in the tree. So all the woodpecker holes make fantastic habitat for little owls like Lucy. And she was unfortunately in the tree when somebody cut down this dead tree snag. And her and her siblings were orphaned. Her parents flew off, and because their home wasn't available anymore, they were, left without a nest and were brought into the home of the person who had cut down the tree. And this isn't necessarily that we could probably rehabilitate her from that age and get her back out into the wild, but they just had her in their home. And she is now what we like to call imprinted on people. She thinks she's a person. She acts like a person. She likes to talk to people. And she's very comfortable and associated with humans and our presence. So she could not go back out into the wild because she doesn't really understand that she's an owl. Good morning, Martha. Hello from Waldoboro. Good morning, Teresa. Hello. Something that we love to do with Lucy, because she is an insectivore, we love to give her snacks of little insects whenever we can. And our insect of choice here at the center is a mealworm, because they're just easy enough to eat. Nice dab. And she loves them. Good morning, Tiffany. I know Lucy's coloring is beautiful. So she has this beautiful red coloration on her. And all of these spots really beautifully blend in with the trees that she would be found living in, the bark of those trees specifically. These guys can be seen in like a few different color variations depending on what kind of trees they're found in. So they come in like this beautiful red roan color, and then they also will be seen in a gray color, and then you can also see them in like a chocolatey brown color. There are folks outside the door, so she keeps looking back there. Hello, Katie from Portland. Good morning. So Miss Lucy here really is one of several types of colorations you can see in screech owls, and it really just depends on where they're found, what kind of trees are in the forests that they're living in. So if they're living near more red barked trees, they're going to more frequently be seen in this red coloration, and that's going to be the color that survives well there. And then if they're found in a forest that has more gray bark trees, they'll see more gray tone ones. They also can get lighter or darker, so Lucy is a pretty bright coloration, but you can also see really light orange or even brighter orange. So they vary a lot in color. It's really interesting. You look at the camera. I know. You're so sweet. Katie says, I have mealworms in my bird feeders all year round. Yeah, bird feeders are a great place to put mealworms, and a lot of birds will eat insects. And so, you know, we think about songbirds, and we also often will think of bird seed, but you know, some birds eat bird seed, like finches and things, but then also some other birds eat insects, like our robins are known for eating insects, and then other birds eat fruit and are berry eaters, like our waxwings. So there are all sorts of different diets, even among songbirds, and so providing a variety of diets is really great. I really love planting berry-producing trees, and shrubs that are native, especially this time of year. Those help to support a lot of the bird species that are around us. So, for example, the red cedars that are in my dad's backyard provide wonderful fruit and habitat for all the overwintering birds here. So songbirds don't just eat bird seed; they eat a lot of things like insects. Good morning, Jackie and Joanne. Hello. The really cool thing about Miss Lucy's ability to turn her head all that way around that you're seeing her show off is that it's actually to do with her vision, which doesn't always track for people that they are related, but she can see in the dark, see in very low light settings because her eyes are huge. They're huge and they pick up on more you know, light in low light situations, so she can see everything a little bit brighter than we can. So she has these huge eyes. Can you see yourself on the camera? I know. She's looking at herself in the computer screen. That's really funny. Hi. Good morning, Lori. Hello. So their eyes are really huge, and because they're very large, they require extra support, and they get that support in the form of a tube bone that wraps around their eye, and that tube of bone actually kind of locks their eyes in place and prevents their eyes from being able to turn in their skulls. So we are able to roll our eyes in our heads. We can look up and down and side to side as we need to see the world around us. But owls are not able to do this. Owls can only really see in one direction. It's like when we use a pair of binoculars or look through like a paper towel tube or something. We can only see what's immediately in front of us. That's how these guys see all the time. And so in order to get a full range of vision, they have to adapt and be able to look around themselves using their necks. So they have to be able to turn their heads really far around, like Miss Lucy just demonstrated, in order to see the world around them and get the same field of vision. So it's just super cool. It all stems from their need to see. Tiffany asks an interesting question about mealworms and feeding mealworms to our patients, and the answer is yes, we do what we call gut load our mealworms. yeah, it is important for all animals when you're trying to keep a close eye on their nutrition and what they are ingesting. It's an important step to take in any process, to make sure that the animals what the animal is eating is not getting into the bird, if that was a chemical or a dye or anything like that. So when we get our mealworms delivered, they go into a colony, and they usually spend, I would say, a day in that colony before we start feeding them to anybody. And we will give them sweet potato and apple and all sorts of different fruit items that are that then the mealworm will ingest and will be in the mealworm, so that when Lucy eats the mealworm, she is also getting good stuff that the mealworm was eating, and not any sort of nasty chemicals or anything like that. So we do that. We also do it with crickets. When we buy crickets, we don't buy very many live mice, but if we do, we do it with them too. So that is a great question. It's really important for any sort of nutrition maintenance. Gut loading is a good practice. No, Tiffany, I'm glad you asked. Martha asked, did Lucy make friends with any of the other animals there? So she had a roommate named Willow who passed away, and they got along pretty well. They do tend to get along well with other members of their species, although imprinted owls are a little bit more of a wild card. You never really know, because they act like humans, not owls, so they might not get along with an owl. She has lots of handler friends. She really loves her handlers. She loves to sit with us. She loves to go on walks. She loves people. So she has friends. And then there are wild screech owls in the woods around us, and we do sometimes hear them. We do sometimes catch Lucy talking to them, but it's never really extensive because she doesn't always know how to talk to them. She doesn't really understand what they're saying or how to respond. So she's also in an enclosure, and they're outside of the enclosure. So she does have some wild friends that come around, but usually only in like May, in the springtime, during that like courtship season when they're trying to find a mate. They'll be moving around a lot, and they might see her a little bit more. Katie asks, is there a specific reason she's winking so much? That's a really good question, and one that we get almost every time we have Lucy out. So Lucy has, her eyes are set in her skull like we discussed. They're locked in place. And in between her eyes, there's this plume of feathers. I don't know if you guys can see. Don't bite me. If you guys can see this plume of feathers right here, she has all these little whiskers, and those are called rictal bristles, and they help to feel what's going on around her beak. She actually has a significant blind spot in the middle of her face, and owls have this because of that locked in nature of their eyes. They actually can't see things very well, or they can't really see things very well that are right up close to their nose. They can't really look down their nose the way that we can. So she has these whiskers here to help feel what's going on. Her beak points down to kind of stay out of that field of vision, and also to help, don't bite me, to help keep her from, disrupting noise or anything like that that's coming to her face. So her beak points down, and her whiskers feel for what's going on in that area, but she actually doesn't see very much that's in this middle frame of her face. So something over here that might stimulate her to wink might not be read by this eye over here. So she might see something on this side and blink because of it, and not see that thing on this side. So it kind of looks like she's winking a lot. Good morning, Sue. She is feisty. She, I think that's just her instinct. When she feels something around her beak, she wants to go for it, and we are feeding her mealworms. So how does she know it's not a mealworm treat? Tiffany asks a great question about their horns. That's a really good question. So does she use her horns like the long-eared owls do for the tree pose camouflage? Absolutely. So they have the same purpose. Long-eared owls, great horned owls, they're called these things because of the feathers on the tops of their heads. So sometimes they're called horns, sometimes they're called ears, but they are really just feathers, and you can see them up close. They are just feathers. And what's really cool is that these feathers help to make them look taller. And when they get nervous or scared, they'll actually kind of slink down and suck in their feathers close to their body and stand those horns straight up in the air, those feathers straight up in the air, and try to look more like a tree. They try to look more vertical, more up and down, because that's the way trees grow, and that's the way that our eyes track the tree up and down. So if they blend in with that, they're gonna be more camouflaged. And then they also will like hug and lean into the side of a tree to kind of, you know, come up close to the bark. And then they also will close their eyes or squint their eyes, and that's to kind of add to that camouflage. They also will rotate their shoulders, like pivot their shoulders, which Lucy does a lot, and that is to show off this plane here. I know. She's like, stop pointing at me. So they'll slink down and then show off this plane of their body because it looks quite a bit like bark, and it just kind of disguises the silhouette of the owl body. So that's all a part of that tree pose that you mentioned. And a lot of owls will do it. A lot of the horned or eared owls will do it. These are actually called plumicorns, which is such a great word, plumicorns. Plume like feather, corn like horn. So these are really important. You're so feisty. Do you want more treats? Yeah. Yeah, Sue, she is so funny. She is. And they are fairly intelligent. And for like birds, they are very intelligent. Raptors in general are more intelligent because they are hunters, and hunters have to be able to solve problems in order to catch their food. So they usually are more intelligent. But within the raptor world, owls are actually not as smart as some other raptor species, like our raptors or our falcons rather, or our corvids or anything like that. So everyone always thinks these guys are you know, like wise old owl, but they're actually not. They're pretty smart. They are pretty smart. Amy says I'm owl-cessed. Yeah, a lot of people love owls. They just are so, they captivate our imagination so much. And what's interesting is we in the West have really positive myths and identifications with owls, but in a lot of Eastern cultures, in like Indian culture and in Middle Eastern cultures, they're actually seen as like bad luck. So they're not as positive in other parts of the world. But in the West, we think of them as like wise old owl or good luck or something like that. Just to remind everybody while we're here, thank you so much for watching, and we do have a donate button on all of our videos, and we really appreciate all of the donations that we get. They go right back to buy mealworms for Miss Lucy, so thank you so much. And then if you have questions, please let me know. I love answering all of your questions and engaging with you guys. It's really fun for us, especially when we're not able to travel to do as many programs or chat with as many people on a day-to-day basis. I mean, all of the educators here at the center really love what they do and love educating. So love having conversations with you guys. So definitely ask me questions. I love, and also if I don't know the answer, I'm happy to look it up and learn. And that's a great part of teaching, is learning. Good morning, Kim and Kittery. Hello. Welcome. Hello, Chuck. Good morning. So actually, Miss Lucy here did come to us from Massachusetts originally. She was brought to the Blue Hills Trailside Museum down in Milton, and they have a great scientist that works out of their facility who contacted us, and he asked us if we wanted a little screech owl baby, and we said of course. But it's just very cool that she is from a little bit more south, and we do actually see the southern screech owls, the ones that are found more in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, in that area, do tend to be more red, like Miss Lucy here. And then the ones that are up here more tend to be more gray. So we have a different population and different format of trees up here in our forests, which is cool. And people also will report Oh, Joanne, you're so sweet. Do you see yourself in that yeah. People will report in areas where these guys are very common, like down in Mass, they will say that they can see screech owls hunting near street lamps and hovering around street lamps because they are hunting for the moths and mosquitoes that the moths and insects that like to congregate around those lights. So you can often see these guys kind of using that to their advantage near around street lamps. Those feathers on her, yep, on her nose, they're so beautiful. I know. Yeah, so they have these, they're called rictal bristles. That's what we call them. And then the area above a bird's beak, that's kind of like the bridge of their nose, is I think what you're trying to talk about. That's called a cere. And it does have skin. It is like very thin layer of skin over that cartilage in the beak. And that's called a cere, C-E-R-E. And it's hard to see on our owls, but it is easier to see on like a hawk or a falcon. It's usually bright yellow on falcons. And owls have all those feathers around their cere to actually help to direct sound, which is really another fascinating function of all of these feathers. They do double duty. They really are there to help to feel insects around their beaks. So yes, Chuck, absolutely an insectivore. And then they are also there to direct noise. So when a sound is, aimed at Lucy, she can actually do little micro adjustments of these feathers around the side of her face that you see in this circle here. She has this like circle of feathers around her face. Don't bite me. And then they actually are completed. That circle is completed by these feathers around her beak. So if you look, you can see they're kind of in a semicircle shape under her eye, and that all directs sound right back to her ear, which is right behind her eye, kind of like right here. So all of that sound is directed to her ear, and it makes her able to hear sound and the direction from which sound is coming from really, really specifically. So she can target sound really well. If she hears something on the forest floor, she can point her head down at that noise and then figure out exactly where it's located and pounce on it. This is something that we see quite a bit in owls that are known to live in snowier areas or areas that do experience a lot of snowpack. So like a great gray owl has one big disc on his face. It's called a facial disc. And then barred owls will have the two around the eyes. And that is actually to help them to hear things that are under snow. So they can point their head down at snow and hear a little mouse running around under feet's worth of snow. And with that facial disc, tune into that sound and hear it so well that they can then take their talons and punch through the snowpack and pull up a mouse. It's really incredible. So great gray owls are fantastic at doing this because where they are from, there's typically lots of snowpack that they have to contend with in the wintertime. Chuck, she will take mice. We do feed her mice, and in the wild they would normally take some mice. They do prefer insects, but they will also take mice. I apologize for the phone guys who are in my office. But yeah, she will take mice from time to time in the wild. It is they're pretty good at changing up their diet and eating what's available, and that is why more and more of them are able to survive up here in the winter, even when there are not a lot of insects to be found. They kind of change up their diet and eat more mammals during the winter time. Oh yeah. Yes, so Tiffany's asking about the downturned beak, and that is actually a function of the same facial disc thing that we were talking about. So because they rely so much on that facial disc for their hearing, and they need that to hunt, their beaks can't jut out through their facial discs, through those circles, because it would disrupt all of that hearing that they need to be able to do. So they wouldn't be able to hear as well if they had a beak sticking out from their through their facial discs. So their beaks point down, and that allows them to have this complete circle around their ear. It looks like it's around their eye, but it's really around their ear. So that is why they don't have the beak pointed straight out. That's a really, really great question. And it's just something that you see typically um, in owls. You know, most other raptors have that forward-facing beak because they have, you know, less reliance on their hearing. They're also able to see a little bit better. They can see. They have more field of vision than an owl does. So they these guys have that downward facing beak, which is so pretty. I know. You're so funny. Something else that you can see really well on Lucy while she's so close up to the camera is, let me try and find it. I don't know if you guys can see, but if you look at the, oh, you're fine. So feisty this morning. If you look at the edge of her feathers here, she has this really cool, you might not be able to see it very well in my camera, but she has this really amazing, I know, honey, edge to her feathers right here that looks kind of like the teeth of a comb. And that actually helps them to fly completely silently at night. So when they flap their wings, the teeth of the feathers on the edge of the feathers cut through the wind and keep it from making very much noise at all. So when she flies, and she is fully flighted, she can fly really well. Her body is perfectly healthy. It's really just everything in her brain, not really understanding how to be an owl, that makes her non-releasable. When she flies throughout her enclosure, you actually can't see it, or can't hear it rather. So she has these little fluted edge to her feathers. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on camera, but it's really cool. It looks just like the teeth of a comb along the edge of her feathers. Yeah. She is so beautiful. Thank you, Anita. Lucy, Anita thinks you're beautiful. These guys all think you're so beautiful. Thank you guys so much for watching. If anyone has any other questions, please let me know. I'm happy to stay and chat. Lucy will probably hang out with me a little bit in the office here for a little while. She does love to sit with us while we're working. So, you know, we'll probably give her some more attention, give her a little bit more treats and everything. But it is her nap time, so we usually don't really do too much during the day with her because we don't want her to be up all day and then have a hard time getting to sleep. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if anyone has any last minute questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. Happy to chat with Miss Lucy. As you can see, she is super feisty. Everyone always looks at our screech owls and thinks that they're so cute, that they're so adorable, that they just want to snuggle them, and you know, they think they would make a really good pet, as is what happened with Lucy. It's not legal to own an owl as a pet in the United States. It is in some countries, but not in the United States. But they actually are very feisty and kind of like cats in a way. Hi, Susan. I know. Thank you so much, Lori. She is a sweetheart. But she's very feisty. They're kind of like, they want attention, but they don't want attention, and they don't like to be touched, and they want, you know, they want everything on their terms. They're very much like a cat. So so Lucy doesn't really love to be pet. A lot of people think that, you know, these guys look soft and squishable and cuddly, and, you know, most of them don't really like to be touched. So, so I don't usually touch Lucy unless she is molting and needs some like extra help molting feathers off of her head. I usually won't. And if I grow my nails out, she does like that. That sometimes does feel good, but most of the time they're pretty short. So I usually won't touch Miss Lucy unless I need to, for the purposes of like feeling how her body is and feeling her wings and making sure she's healthy. I usually won't touch her unless I need to, because she doesn't really like it. So it's just another thing to consider with wild animals. Many of them are not cuddly, don't like to be touched, don't like to be handled. So she's usually pretty okay with it, but she's very patient. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Our saw-whet owls insectivores too. Saw-whet owls are actually mammal eaters. They eat mammals very significantly, and very few insects. And that's also why they live here all year round, which is really cool. We'll have to do another Artemis show soon. She is a screech owl, Sue. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you later. Okay. Bye, Miss Lucy. Bye.